What do you mean I can't have any alcohol?
Okay, well, I'll tell you. Okay, the time's 20 to 3, 14:40. I'm arresting you on suspicion of improper use of the electronic communications network. I'm just
What?
127 Communications Act, okay? So you do not have to say that it may harm your defence if you don't mention one question, subject to later or in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand that?
So I'm actually being arrested?
You're going to be arrested, okay?
Right.
So you go up to the police station.
Right.
You, okay, this is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page. Okay?
Oh, really? Oh, it's a Facebook crime, is it?
Okay.
Right.
So we need to ask you some questions about that.
Right.
Have you got anything in your pockets,
I've got my keys. I've got... No, that's about it, I think. Keys.
So anyone who's been arrested, we can search them under Section 32 and Basic Evidence Act.
Right.
That's a dangerous item.
Hey, I mean, you said I was going to be arrested under some what information? So I'm going to be arrested for posting on Facebook.
Some comments that are offensive, obscene, and people have made a complaint about that, and it's transferred.
Can you tell me what this comment was?
Okay, well, we'll do that when we interview.
All right. And so, what am I going to be locked up for the night, or?
Hopefully not.
Right. Do I need to take my medications with me?
Yes, we will look at taking all of those.
When do you need to take them?
Well, I've got pain medications. I've got sleeping medication. I've got anxiety medications, which I might take one of those in a bit.
Well, if we take everything with us, then you've got everything there, haven't you?
And then, we've got a nurse up there. They'll be able to. They'll be able to come and see you, and then once you've been there, they can assess whether or not medication can be issued. All right. So what we're going to do is, you want to pop yourself up. We're just going to search.
You need the glasses.
Yeah, search you.
To come with you.
My glasses.
Yeah. Do you want to take them with you?
All right. So I've got a really cool show for you tonight, because I have gotten several of my friends from Ireland, Scotland, as well as parts of England, natives, people who actually are from there, whose ancestors fought against the Islamic invasion of Europe for over 1,000 years, right? Telling me, hey, Mike, why is it that the Western press doesn't explain why we're so upset? Because all they're hearing is, oh, there's just a bunch of racist white people that just hate Muslims and they're just rioting. And so everything's being completely ignored. And then they're talking about this two-tiered justice system. And so we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the two-tiered justice system, because we have a very similar thing happening here in the United States. You have sort of like, we're seeing sort of the woke administrative state. They have their own justice system. And then the working class, the people who grew up here in the country, they're slowly being replaced by illegal aliens. That's what a lot of people are saying, and they're really upset about it. And so they come to me for questions and answers, because CNN won't report the truth. PMSNBC won't report the truth. Fox News, controlled opposition, won't report the truth. And so it all sort of correlates together. And we're sort of seeing the same exact thing, the wide open borders, the Southern invasion, the globalist billion-dollar corporations, all pushing to bring people from sub-Saharan Africa, and primarily military-aged males, into Europe. And so now the people who grew up in Europe, the true Europeans, are really, really upset about it, because their complaints keep falling on deaf ears. They have their own version of Justin Trudeau, just like us Californians have our own version of Gavin Newsom. And they're basically World Economic Forum young world leaders. And they're pushing the same exact game plan that was pushed by the Third Reich, which we're gonna discuss. It's unbelievable. The only difference is now it's, instead of the Aryans being the master race, it's the white people are the evil, what do they call them, racists, and they have to be replaced by the better stock, I guess, from sub-Saharan Africa. This is how it's being explained to me. Like, I don't really know the whole story, but based on the stories I'm hearing, and based upon the fact that you haven't seen any coverage about what really happened over there and why it's happening, it makes me think, like, man, all these news agencies must be the same people. They all must be run by BlackRock and communist China. And guess what? I go and I look at who owns the majority of the stocks in all these media companies. Sure enough, it's the same people pushing this so-called replacement model, where they're trying to replace traditional native Europeans with with military age males from Islamic countries. And you see it happening in real time. And unfortunately, many of these Europeans became secular humanists over the last several hundred years, and they no longer embrace their Christian identity. And you'll see them walking around in their Queers for Palestine shirts, and it's almost like they totally forgot, or no one ever taught them about the original invasion and what it took to fight it off. So 1300 years ago, France defeated the Islamic Empire, and they were constantly being invaded by Islam, and parts of Spain, I think for over 700 years, were dominated by Islam. And that's why words like El are in the Spanish language. A lot of people don't know that, but there are a lot of Arabic words in the Spanish language because of the occupation. And the Moors were brutal to the natives. They were absolutely brutal. They caused a lot of harm and mass RAPEs. And so if anybody looked at the historical model of the last invasions, it's almost like a mirror image of what's happening. But the difference is they were invited there by politicians. And these politicians are all people who are like World Economic Forum, young world leaders. These are people who want to replace the European population with people who will submit to authority. And we're going to get into that in a little while, because a lot of people are saying, yeah, but the people who are invading England right now, they're not submitting to authority. They're rioting, they're causing trouble. And that might be true in the short term. But once they install a caliphate and they have once their jihad is over, because that's what many people are saying this is really, it's just a legal form of jihad where they come in and replace the local Europeans. And what the people in the UK were complaining about recently is that they set them up in these, they set up the illegals or the migrants in these hotels, which of course the locals have to pay for. And then these young military age males are going out at night in organized RAPEGANGSs. And we've heard about this happening all over Europe, in France, definitely happening all over the place in France, no-go cities. Those are all true stories. I have friends who live there now who are actual natives. The whitewashing you're hearing on the mainstream press here is a total lie. And you'll see that the same WEF young world leaders, including Abbott, they're all about opening our southern border as well and replacing us. We see that happening in real time. Now, a lot of people think Abbott's cool for sending those busloads of people into Democrat cities. But what I guess they're not understanding is all they're doing is helping those Democrat cities increase their electoral votes, because illegal aliens increase the electoral voting system. They give you the ability, they give the politicians the ability to split districts off. So let's say you have 200 people that are Democrats right now in this one district in New York. Well, if you flood that city with 1,000 illegal aliens, it may split into 3 districts. And so even though none of those illegal aliens can vote yet, they don't have to, because 1 or 2 Democrats here, 1 or 2 Democrats there, they could literally 1 or 2 legal voters in a voting district filled with illegal aliens can turn an election, because now they get a new senator, they get a new congressman. So that is what a lot of people are saying is really happening here in our country. And so now let's get into what you won't hear on the communist news, CNN, or any of our controlled social media sites like Zuckbook or Instagram. Like literally, if you try to post this kind of stuff on Facebook, true stories, you'll be banned. You'll be shadow banned. You'll have your accounts throttled because they don't want the truth to get out. And this is what I've been trying to tell all of you people is, if you support natural law, if you understand the concept of an open dialogue, you're not going to try to shut people up. You're going to support maximum speech. Now, I challenge anyone here in my show today to tell me how it's racist or violent to be upset about illegal foreign invaders coming into your country and having their way with your women and children. Give me a bunch of ones if you think it's absurd that someone can be called a racist, bigot, or a homophobe because they want to protect their children from illegal foreign invaders who shouldn't even be in their country. I'd like to see a bunch of ones in the sidebar right now. Now, Mama Lion, it's good seeing you. Thanks for coming in. Salty Buckeye. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. It's going to get even worse, Salty. You're going to have the Israelis going crazy and the Muslims going crazy. This could very easily pop off into a hot war. What's going on right now. But the bottom line is if you know anything about history, right? If you know anything about history, you're going to be questioning, why on earth would Europe invite military-age males from Islamic countries who want nothing more, who have been taught nothing more since birth than to get back at the Kafir, to get back at the Holy Crusaders? Because they're literally taught this, like in Morocco and many other sub-Saharan African countries. That's what they're taught. Women wear like hefty bags. And if they see a Western woman dressed in like a bikini or something, many of my friends are telling me this who live there, they think of that woman as open game because she has no shame and therefore they can have their way with her. And mind you, many people are saying that's not all of them, but unfortunately, it isn't all of them. The problem is the other ones provide aid and comfort. So what they'll do is when they're out roaming around with their machetes and their knives, if the police get involved, which they usually don't because the police are terrified of these invaders, to be honest, and they're unarmed. So what ends up happening is they'll discard their machetes and knives at a local mosque, because just like over in the war against terror, the mosques are off limits to soldiers and police, right? So they've got this game plan. They've got it all worked out. It's based upon a religious argument. Oh, we have the right of freedom of religion. But as I've said before, if your religion is based upon overturning my constitutional republic and placing it with a caliphate, that is in opposite to what a constitutional republic is about. So that's kind of where I would draw the line there. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what happened and why this popped off. And then we're going to get into the arbitrary and capricious enforcement of the laws. Because right now what's happening is the new PM is basically targeting white males and Christians who are protesting these people for RAPing and having their way with children and women. And so these kids got killed by another one of these sub-Saharan Africans, I guess. I guess he came at them with a katana or a knife and stabbed a bunch of people. And of course, the police don't do anything about it. And the British government tries to silence you from talking about it. And that's what the natives are so upset about. They're upset that their own government is basically sold out to these globalists and they're no longer loyal to the natives. Their own government knows that it's just a matter of time at the rate that the Muslims are reproducing, because they're having an average of 5 to 6 kids per family. The globalists know that they'll be replaced. Now, a lot of you are probably asking, but why would these like European globalists want to be have a bunch of Muslims who are like violent come in and replace the native population? Well, that's pretty simple to a lot of the people I'm talking to. And what it is the Europeans, as well as especially Americans, have a sort of a rebellious spirit. And because they're not bound by religion anymore, it's difficult to control them. Whereas the Chinese population, very easy to control, very submissive to the government. I mean, even prosecutors, like in California, they go out of their way to make sure they have Asians on the jury, because in their mind, they think that Asians will always convict no matter what, because they're terrified of the state. And if they go against the state, they know where that'll get them. Now, we'll get into a caliphate and why that would be advantageous to like the World Economic Forum or an organization like that who wants to completely control society. But first, let's talk a little bit about these girls. So these are native Europeans. You can't claim that they're colonizers or invaders, which Antifa and the academics like to do in America. These are actually people who were born on European soil. And like I said, they have these, they call them RAPE centers. And these young men, they go out at night and they just literally go out, they human traffic, and they do this to little kids. And now they're killing them. And there's a lot of violence happening every single day, especially in France. And so this is what the people are upset about. Now, since you never hear the other side of the story, Team MPE, I'm going to go ahead and share the other side of the story. I'm going to let this dude, who I can't even believe that they let him talk, honestly, but let's let this guy talk and let him share with you what he's going through. Because I'm not from over there. I used to live in Motherwell, Scotland, and so I do have a lot of friends there, but I'm not from there. So let's hear what a local has to say.
I wonder if some elements of the Muslim community in Britain are a protected group. For years, police forces and politicians tripped over themselves to not reveal the true extent of the grooming gang scandal because it didn't want to stoke racial tensions. Another way of looking at this is that it actually protected predominantly British Pakistani rape gangs from the public and, for a period of time, prosecution. People suffered as a result of that. I wonder whether or not this is happening all over again now with the PREVENT programme. PREVENT is a scheme designed to stop people becoming radicalised, but it's alleged that some groups who receive taxpayers' money are part of the Prevent scheme and are actually promoting extremism.
Of course.
Shock horror. Well, surely these groups should be named, shouldn't they? Surely the public and the press have a right to know who these groups are so they can investigate them further and stop vulnerable people from falling into their clutches. But no, supposedly woke Home Office officials are worried about naming them and then facing legal action. Well, firstly, if the allegations are true, then there should be no risk of legal action. Secondly, I just don't think that's the real reason. I think the real reason is that they don't want the inevitable fallout. They will be accused of racism and of demonising the Muslim community at large. There would be protests. It would kick right off.
That's right. And so that's the main problem is if you stand up for your rights as a European, especially as a Brit, because they've been so brainwashed by their government that they just have to be tolerant and acceptant of everything. It's only the males that still haven't drank enough soy who are actually fighting back finally. And a lot of people are saying, what took you so long? But the problem is this gentleman said, if you do stand up for your rights, you're automatically being accused of being a racist or a bigot. And I think a lot of people are kind of waking up to the reality that that's just bullshit. Someone who wants to protect their children from being RAPE'd by someone who's a foreigner from another country who doesn't respect the culture that they're living in and leeching off of, they shouldn't be there. And I think people are starting to wake up to that. They're guests. And as such, when in Rome, do as Romans do. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. Hey, James Forbes, good seeing you, man. Yeah, and so G. Hammer is saying the killer is now 18 years old and was born to Rwandan migrant parents. Right. Well, the problem is these mosques are basically like jihadi recruitment centers. It's like they kind of like, have like the Army one, then you have the Marine one, you have like the Navy SEAL one. They all have different levels of radicalism, but the radical elements are all there. It's the place where you go to drop your weapons off when the police are chasing you. It doesn't matter where they are. It's a safe zone. It's like an embassy. And so it's a real problem. But the problem for the natives is the selective enforcement, the two-tier justice system. And we saw this happen. A lot of people say that it happened with Trump since he's a Republican and he's white. He got the George Soros treatment, the World Economic Forum treatment, right? Because we know that they have all of their agents in our ABC, like, our alphabet agencies are dominated by World Economic Forum members. Our governorships are dominated by World Economic Forum members. And these people advocate the replacement, allegedly, of the native populations that want to replace them with more easily tamed populations. And we'll get into, because a lot of people are going, well, that's crazy. Why would they send a bunch of Muslims? Because all they want to do is, burn buildings down. No, they don't. They want to burn down Christian stuff. They want to burn down Western society. They don't want to just cause damage. They want to create a caliphate, right? That's the goal. That's the goal of the type of Islam that's practiced by the majority of the guys that are in those countries now. So I'm not saying it's all like that, but this is just what I'm being told by people who are in the know, people in the military, people who've already fled the UK, who say, one guy just fled to Slovakia, one of my really good friends, and he told me about 2 months ago, it's about to kick off. Watch, it's about to pop off. There will be a jihadist revolution in the United Kingdom, and it's going to happen in a couple of months. This is from a guy who was a high-ranking military officer who fled the country. So let's get into a little more about who's doing this. Okay, so they got this dude, this globalist guy. I think his name's like Kurt Starmer or something. Now, I guess this guy wears dresses and stuff and heels, and he likes he's about all the woke stuff. So let's listen to what he has to say to the parents who had their kids killed and went bananas, and all the locals who went bananas and started going after these migrants, saying, get them out of here. They went to a migrant center, broke out the windows, got crazy. And so Keir Starmer says, I utterly condemn the far-right thuggery as there's dudes killing their kids and running around with machetes attacking anyone with white skin. Listen to what this jerk says.
Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves. This is not protest. It is organised, violent thuggery, and it has no place on our streets or online. Right now, there are attacks happening on a hotel in Rotherham.
Filled with Muslims.
Marauding gangs intent on law breaking, or worse, windows smashed.
So just really quick, just so you understand, that hotel that he's talking about, that's the hotel where these RAPEGANGSs live. So the locals are going there to burn down the hotel because that's where all these gangs are that are attacking their children. And this guy here, Keir Starmer, says we need to go after the locals for the stuff they're saying on Twitter, the true stories. He doesn't like it that the locals are posting this on Twitter. Keir Starmer doesn't like it that the locals are posting stuff like this, reminding all the locals that the people that Keir and his globalist friends flooded their country with, who don't respect them or their country or their laws, are doing this to their kids. Instead, Keir wants to put all of the local native British people whose ancestors fought against these very same people who are doing this to their kids. Keir wants to put them in prison and come after them. So let's go ahead and let Keir, by the way, this is one of Barack Obama's good buddies. Let's go ahead and hear what he's got to say.
Fire set ablaze, residents and staff in absolute fear. There is no justification, none, for taking this action. And all right-minded people should be condemning this sort.
Oh, wait a minute. Right-minded people. Remember, okay, guys, hold on a minute. Remember when Justice Trudeau got mad at those truckers because they didn't want to take that experimental injection, you know, that we now know had sides like thrombosis and myocarditis? Remember when he wanted to say, you cannot drive trucks, you can't be a trucker unless you take this injection? Remember that? All his friends in pharma wanted to make sure that everybody got that thing, right? And Justin Trudeau, what did he say? Wrong-minded thinking, wrong-minded thinking. Listen to this guy. Just remember, these are all the same people. They all go to Davos. They all fly in their Learjets. They all pay a special tax, the environmental tax, you know, for the damage they do to the ozone. And that's how they justify flying around in these Learjets. And they all buy beachfront property, even though for the last 80 years, all of their scientists have said those same beaches would already be underwater, but they're not. But yet they're making a lot of money on new taxes that they pass all the time to prevent global warming. So he's part of that group. Let's go ahead and let him finish up what he's got to say. This guy's unbelievable.
Sort of violence. People in this country have a right to be safe. And yet we've seen Muslim communities targeted, attacks on mosques, other minority communities singled out, Nazi salutes in the street, attacks on the police.
You know, it's interesting that he talks about Nazi salutes because the Palestinian Liberation Organization's salute is the Nazi salute. And the Grand Mufti of Palestine was closely allied with the Nazis. And we'll get into the fact that the Nazis had their own Muslim SS unit as we move forward with this. But now you're going to start to understand why guys like Klaus Schwab are flooding the country. Remember, Klaus Schwab, one of his ancestors, was part of the Third Reich. Think about that. So let's just kind of watch my video and just try to put on your critical thinking cap, and we'll get into some history and learn a little bit more. But I want you guys to finish hearing what this interesting fellow has to say.
Violence alongside racist rhetoric. So no, I won't shy away from calling it what it is. Far-right thuggery. To those who feel targeted because of the color of your skin or your faith, I know how frightening this must be. I want you to know that this violent mob
Well, yeah, he should know how frightening that would be, because if he went into one of those neighborhoods that he flooded with you know, sub-Saharan African military-age males, he would feel frightened because they would come after him with a machete. So I understand how he would know how that feels. Unfortunately, he seems to be saying that he only understands how these invaders that he invited into these neighborhoods to attack the local citizenry's kids, he doesn't seem to understand how they feel. And this is what we're talking about the two-tier justice system, and that the police are enforcing not the law, not the natural law, not God's law, but the law of the highest bidder. And in this case, the globalists are in power. So naturally, they have all of their people running the alphabet agencies, their alphabet agencies in the UK, as well as the alphabet agencies in the United States. We saw what happened with Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, right? I mean, two FBI agents who said they had an insurance policy, and they ended up getting illegal FISA warrants so they could spy on Carter Page, who I guess worked for President Trump, right? So they were illegally spying on the Trump campaign, saying they had an insurance policy to make sure that he would never be the president, or at least they'd get him out of office. And ultimately, nothing happened to them. Well, I think Strzok got a job at CNN, but the appellate courts went bananas and got kicked and screamed. But it almost makes you think he had a letter in his safe that he could pull out, right? Saying, get out of jail free. Think about that. Because it's all the same thing. These government agents like Trudeau, like what, by the way, those truckers, let's kick it up. Let's go ahead and cap off what happened. So the Canadian Supreme Court, I don't know how that happened. They must have still had some holdover judges from when they had a sane society, realized that it was a violation of the human rights of those truckers to try and force them to get shots. And then what he did is he used the communist Chinese style social credit scoring system to shut down their bank accounts, to take all their money, to prevent them from buying food, to prevent them from even having their homes heated, basically, right? Trudeau did that, just like the communist Chinese still do to their people, using a system that Google helped the communist Chinese create. Think about that. And it's designed for the 15-minute cities where everything about you is monitored, like Orwell warned us about. And so the Canadian Supreme Court ruled, no, Trudeau, you can't do that, and ruled that the truckers were violated. And now those truckers have the right to sue. So kind of like what happened to Chile de Castro. I just want to give you guys an update because our mainstream press doesn't cover any of this stuff. They just sweep it under the rug. Now, Trudeau, before he passed all those crazy regulations to basically try and destroy anyone who's not a far left woke person, because obviously if you're not far left and woke, you're a radical, bigot, homophobe, blah, 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 right? That's just the the woke standard operating procedure, what their talking points. But the bottom line is these guys went ahead and tried to get the courts to find them totally immune. So if they wanted to say that if the law was found unconstitutional, that you couldn't sue. You couldn't sue if the law was found unconstitutional. They wanted to retroactively prevent the truckers from being able to sue the Canadian government. And the courts didn't go along with it. So I'm going to have a special guest on my show in a few weeks, a Canadian lawyer who worked on that case, a female, really cool girl. We're going to talk about that. But now we're back into what's going on over in the UK. So let's go ahead and let Keir Starmer, our World Economic Forum, I think he only has about 18 to 20% of the vote. Somehow he was able to get in and control the country. I think there's only one other guy who did that. I think he did that in the 1920s in Germany. Oh, let's just keep watching.
Not represent our country, and we will bring them to justice. Our police deserve our support as they tackle any and all violent disorder that flares up. Whatever the apparent cause or motivation, we make no distinction. Crime is crime, and this government will tackle it.
Right. This government will anybody who is a non-native will be treated with kid gloves because no one wants to be accused of racism. And everyone else will be asked this very simple question.
Where are your papers, Mav? Where are they? Oh, you don't have any papers?
So we kind of see that happening. And now let's go ahead and take a look at what we saw this video. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about. So one of my friends pointed out, like, what, why are they doing this? Why are the globalists like Klaus Schwab and this other guy, Keir, whatever his name is, trying to flood Europe with military-age fighting Muslims, many of whom support jihad, which is a holy war against the West? You see like Notre Dame on fire. You see Paris burning down. All the Christian historic things are burning down. You see satanic symbols popping up in front of courthouses in the United States. You see all this crazy stuff, and you're trying to make sense of it all. And a lot of people are saying, well, wait a minute, these guys, they're violent. They're unruly. There's no way to control these guys. why would somebody like World Economic Forum or the globalists who run the UK want them in their country? Well, it's very simple, because once they take control, these people are going to be the most submissive and easy to control populace there ever could be. Because once they have their caliphate, it's pretty much, there's no more violence to be done. The war is over. So basically, Hitler talked about this, and he said in an exchange, when Hitler received a Saudi ruler named Ibn Saud, special envoy Khalid al-Hud, in a meeting, he claimed that one of the 3 reasons why Germany had some interest in Arabs was because they were jointly fighting the Jews, and this led him to discuss Palestine and the conditions there, and that he stated that he himself would not rest until the last Jew had left Germany. Khalid al-Hud observed that the Prophet Muhammad had acted the same way, and he had driven the Jews out of Arabia. And then so Hitler basically adopted a idea of, he liked the concept that the Arab world in particular could be controlled through religion, much better than like the German populace. The Arab style of Islam he considered it to be a political style of Islam, if that makes sense. It was more political than spiritual. And many people say that the religion itself is more political than religious. It's a religion of submission, and unlike Christianity, which teaches individual rights and freedom under natural law theory. And so this is probably why he created the SS Handschar. So Himmler created a Nazi SS unit called the Handschar, and they were used to, obviously the SS, they were considered to be like the elite of the Germans. And so anyways, let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead and listen to what another victim went through in the UK. And this is why the people are so upset. I just want you guys to understand, look, I don't condone violence. I don't think it's smart for the local natives to be throwing bricks and rocks and stuff at the police or trying to go after these Muslim guys. I think it looks really bad. But the problem is what they're saying is the police aren't doing anything to stop them. They're having their way with our wives and kids. We don't feel safe to walk the streets. They don't respect our laws. They burn down all of our cities and churches, and we're quite frankly terrified of them because they don't abide by the normal social norms of an Englishman. And so because of that, the locals are just absolutely terrified. And so they're finally starting to fight back. I'm just letting you know, I don't condone violence, but sometimes I don't know, you guys tell me. I want to hear it in the comments, like Wanda or Roger, Brick. I want to know what you guys think. When do you have the right to defend yourself and your way of life and your people and your culture? When your own government is flooding your country with people that shouldn't be there, that could have been released from a jail in Venezuela. They could be a communist Chinese spy coming here to destroy one of our power plants. Could be Russians. I mean, we're at war with Russia with a wide open southern border. They could just come in and bring in suitcase nukes. I mean, these people could cause a lot of trouble. There's just such an unsafe world right now. Why on earth would you want to flood your country with people who you don't even know who they are? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense unless the government wants the world to implode on itself. I don't understand it. Give me a bunch of ones if you don't understand it. If somebody does, please tell me in the sidebar. So anyways, we got a chance to kind of look at a little bit about what's going on, and then the history of why a European dictator would want to have maybe a caliphate. Hitler loved the idea. In fact, he became allied with the Grand Mufti of Palestine, and to this day, I was telling you earlier, the Palestinians do the Hitler salute. So when you hear these guys like, what's this guy's name? Keir Starmer. When you hear guys like Keir Starmer say, oh, they were doing the Nazi salute, it's like, dude, the people that you invited into your country, these invaders, that's what they do in their country. And a lot of them really looked up to Hitler too. So it's like, dude, come on, you must really think we're all stupid. It's like he's pointing the finger at his own people, his own European heritage. And basically saying that they're the ones in the wrong after he invited a bunch of bullies into their house. I mean, come on, guys, think about that, how these locals feel. At least try and put yourself in their shoes. And then let's go ahead and take a look at this video. This is going to blow your mind. I mean, when I started researching this, I was blown away. Check this out.
If somebody knows where you live and your daily routine, they're going to find you. But it quickly moved on to being sold onto men every single day. So I'd be being sold maybe 2 or 3 times a night, taken into the only thing I can describe as a rape house, which was set up for the purpose of young girls being sold to men. The reason why I kept going back was they were threatening me with burning my house down, which was a real threat in Telford because that had actually happened previously. And they would say to me they would rape my mum and rape my sisters. And they knew all about my family. There was just no escape at all. I was gang raped just after I turned 16. And that was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me. Sorry.
You don't need to apologise. No way.
And after that, I tried to commit suicide. And people would say to me, was that a cry for help? And I would say, no, I genuinely wanted to die because I thought that was the only way, the way out. I was in cars that were stopped and searched by the police with older men, and it's never questioned why I was in there or who I was. My name was never asked.
Right. And so that's another thing that, like, a lot of the locals are telling me, especially like in Ireland, if the people in the car are like sub-Saharans or they're Muslims or whatever, the police are just told not even to question it. Even if they're with like a prepubescent girl, they're just terrified to do anything because they don't want to be accused of being racist. And so basically this whole racist thing has been turned on its head to be used as a tool to engage in lawlessness. And that's what they're complaining about. Again, I'm trying to be a neutral arbiter as much as I can by just presenting the information, because right now, all you're getting from the globalist controlled press and of course the censorship tools. I mean, I'll be surprised if this doesn't get, taken down, even though it's all true. The censorship tools they're using to silence anyone who exposes what's really happening over there are just unbelievable. And look, I'm all about having an open society and dialogue and, having legal immigration. But look, in other countries, you can't come in and just, they're going to check you to make sure you're not going to work. You're just visiting. They'll protect their people. And you don't see Europe, you don't see the UK protecting their people. Our government's not protecting us. I mean, we were born here. My dad got Agent Orange, died from cancer because of a lie, fighting for this country, the Gulf of Tonkin, a lie that got us into the Vietnam War. But he was a Marine. And my other ancestors before me were all legal, came through the legal pathway where they had to become a legal citizen and swear an oath to their new nation. And I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you is you don't just invite people into your home. You have to make sure that you like them first. Like all you guys on my channel, we're friends and we get along and we support each other and we have common interests. We don't just invite trolls who want to destroy us. In fact, we have moderators to keep them out because we know that they cause such calamity. Now imagine if you lived over there and you were a native and your ancestors fought against and participated in the Crusades, right? And then you had to see this, that one of your kids got killed by one of these people, which is happening every day, or being RAPE'd or being sold, being passed around by these guys that wield machetes that live in these immigrant centers that they're attacking. That's why they're attacking them, guys. This isn't happening for no reason. So I just want you to understand there's two sides to every story, and it hasn't been presented by the globalist controlled press. And so I'm trying to give everyone on my channel an opportunity to see both sides of the story, because all you get is the one side. All I know is I'm glad that I don't live in the United Kingdom. I don't even want to play any more of this video of what happened to this girl because it's so gross. But I'm just going to play this other video of how the police basically are only going after like the low risk areas. They don't really mess with any of these immigrants because they know that they're going to get hurt. So they're going after the more compliant, unfortunately, the native people, like the local Brits, targeting them for social media posts, the low hanging fruit. So this is Bordesley Green. You got these Palestinian flags everywhere. So obviously that side is the Muslims. So they're taking over like whole towns. Like they call them no-go zones. And they're literally chasing this police car out of there. Watch. See that? So they literally are like chasing the police car out of there, the guy in the motorcycle, right? That's the state of lawlessness in the UK. And then this dude, this guy, what's his name? Keir Starmer, the UK guy. Here, we'll go ahead and play him again. This is hilarious.
Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow.
All right, so now let's look at who he's actually targeting. This is really interesting. Hopefully I still have it up. Man, you know what? I don't have that one up anymore, but so at the very beginning, if you rewind it, at the beginning of the video, I show this old man. He can barely get out of his chair. He's been posting stuff on YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is, my Facebook posts, and he's saying stuff like, why don't we get these bloody foreigners out of my country? They're doing harm to my laddies. They're doing problems with the girls. God, get them out of here, right? So he makes posts like that. So please come. Your posts have been found to be violative of causing someone great emotional harm. You've hurt someone's feelings. So as such, I have been authorized, to go ahead and put you in these torture cuffs and arrest you because you've offended one of these people that is causing all the crimes in our cities. And we don't want to get any more upset, So come with us, sir. Oh, by the way, could you empty out your pockets? Do you have any weapons? Well, I think I got my medicine because I could barely move. And that's the kind of people they're targeting. They're not targeting the dudes running around with machetes. They're not targeting the dudes who are chasing people chasing police cars out of the city on motorcycles. They're not targeting them. They're not targeting these guys. Right? They're targeting the old dude who can barely move. They're not targeting these guys. They're not arresting these guys. Hey, they got a great propaganda machine. I mean, you can't go against their propaganda machine. It's pretty impressive. So anyways, guys, now let's get into the two-tier justice system. So regardless of why it's happening, why our governments are flooding our countries with people that frankly don't like us and who frankly immediately get some form of government assistance that you and I have to pay for. So set all that aside. Let's try and understand what's going on here. Why is it that the foreign invaders are being treated differently than the natives? Ask many locals, ask many of the natives who grew up and fought for and defended their nations against this very type of chicanery. And I'm hoping that I can get some kind of a discussion with the people in my sidebar. I'm trying to understand, maybe you guys can help me understand what's going on. Why do you think that the police, many of whom are local stock, right, who grew up in the same cities, why are they supporting basically what amounts to the overthrow of our culture, right, of their culture, of, inviting people in who are attacking their children, having their way with their women and children, and then a government who says you can't say anything about this, you can't report on this on the news because we don't want to be accused of being racist or something. So you can't talk about it. And so I'm trying to understand how it came to pass that the people who allegedly are supposed to protect you are now locking you up for trying to protect yourself. And I wonder if the Second Amendment didn't exist in the United States, if this would have already happened here like it's happened in the United Kingdom. So what do you guys have to say? By the way, Jeff, thank you. I don't know if you're saying brilliant about me. I doubt it, but Mama Lion, I watched the UK media today too, and you're right. And that's all they do is say far right, far right. They don't talk about these guys running around with machetes, and the organized human trafficking rings that they have set up in these small towns where they target young girls and pass them around for money. It's unbelievable what these people are getting away with, because the authorities are terrified to say anything about it, lest they be accused of being racist. And it's a real problem. It's frankly, it's kind of gross when you think about it, because everything that we fought for in European society and then in American society to create a world where we were colorblind, right? Where you didn't judge people by the color of your skin. Now it's been turned on its head, where everyone other than white people are being judged. I'm sorry, only white people are being judged based on the color of their skin, and everyone else gets a pass. And they're even supposed to get a little bit extra to make up for all the inequities of the past. And a lot of us are just going, man, I sure wish that I could be a different color now, because I sure would like to get some of those subsidies and that money and that extra little help to get me into a good top tiered school, So, that's why our founding fathers wanted a republic where the rights of everyone were, you're an individual, you have individual rights, and you can't infringe upon the rights of your neighbor. You can't take something from your neighbor in order to make yourself equal to him, because that's not equal. That's called theft. And so our founding fathers recognized that. So, oh, you like my accent? I got a pretty good Scottish accent too there, man. I lived in Scotland, mate. It was great, man. How you are, Jimmy? and look, I'm not trying out to become a Hollywood celebrity or anything. But if Wahlberg wants to set something up, I might do something with him. I like that guy. He's pretty cool. All right. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Stephen. We've got all kinds of trafficking issues. And no one's being condescending about the UK. We're being condescending about the World Economic Forum and all these globalists who have destroyed your culture and flooded your country with people who mean to do the locals and the natives harm. We're all about legal and civil immigration and all that good stuff. I just find that typically when I see people like Stephen and I look at his profile, I'll generally see, like an American flag that's on fire and maybe a Palestinian flag waving in the background. So I kind of already know the type. But now, Stephen, that was not Irish, man. That was bloody Scottish. That was a Glaswegian accent, mate. Now, Irish accent is a wee bit more like this. You got to talk a little bit more like this. You got to, and you got to buy a bullet for the IRA if you're going to come into the Hibernian and shoot some pool. So it's a bit different. Yeah, man. So I stayed with this Catholic family when I was over there, and I went to some Celtic and Rangers games. Man, it's vicious. Those dudes are throwing rocks at each other and dumping hot oil on each other. It's crazy. Like hot tea or whatever they could get. These people were vicious. And occasionally you'd see like an IRA banner pop up, and then the bobbies would come and take it down. So one of my good friends, one of my mates in Ireland, he's talking about how they're doing the same thing there, where like the globalist politicians are flooding Ireland with all these sub-Saharans, and they're just totally lawless. Like, these guys they'll just take your woman right from you and do her there right in the street kind of thing. And he's like, he's like, even the prods and the Catholics are uniting against these people. So it's like literally their own government has flooded their country with people who are lawless. And now even the Protestants and the Catholics, like arch enemies for so many years, are now banding together to fight the common enemy and what they consider to be the common enemy. And look, I know I may get some blowback for the show, but guys, nobody's presenting both sides of the story. I mean, the problem is all of these locals who have lived there in these towns in the UK, where their children are constantly getting savaged by these people from these immigration centers that are in the same residential areas, right? They just had enough. And look, if you were a dad, right, if you're a father and that happened to your daughter and you knew it was coming from those immigration centers and you knew that the police wouldn't do anything about it, and that when they arrest these guys, they're like out and they come up with these excuses like, well, it's not illegal under Sharia law, or in my country, it's not illegal. I was incapable of forming the capability to violate your laws because in my culture, it's legal to do what I did. And that's what they're doing. They're literally letting them out of jail based on these arguments. That literally is the replacement of UK common law with some strange theory that this religious argument that these guys are coming up with, this Sharia law argument to let them out of jail and not be prosecuted for doing this to the local children. The local people are absolutely outraged by it, and they're finally waking up, but it's probably too late. I mean, you see that the impetus is behind the guys wearing all black and running around with machetes, not the locals. I mean, remember, most of the natives are working class natives, right? They work. Most of these people in these detention centers and their kids and their families are on some kind of government assistance. And all they do basically is reproduce, according to several of my friends who have actually shown me the statistics. Like they do have statistics showing you like the native to immigrant and who's getting all the assistance. And basically these guys just don't work. They just basically go to the mosque, pray in the street. That's what they're saying. I don't know if it's true. But now, Roger Lane, I agree with you. You should never invite perverts into your country. It's not smart. But see, to them, they don't think that they're perverts. In their mind, it's open season. You're not wearing a laundry bag, like a hefty bag over your head. And all women have to be escorted in public. So if you're an unescorted female and you're not wearing a hefty bag, well, that means you're open season. Now, that may not even be a religious thing. It could just be a cultural thing, right? I don't know if that's an Islamic thing or not. It may not be. So, I'm not a religious expert. I just think organized religion is a bad idea all around. I think you should have a spiritual relationship with your creator, whoever that might be to you, but it should be based upon the universal understanding of right and wrong and natural law. And I think Brick Jonesy understands that more than many here. So all this organized religious stuff, it's dangerous, man, because you can get a Jim Jones. You can have a woke political system, which is basically a faith-based religion. I mean, you have to have a lot of faith to believe any of that stuff could work. It's basically communism repackaged with white people as the enemy. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. Now, let's see here. That's probably true, Salt-Eye Buckeye, that conservatives' greatest strength is probably their biggest weakness. I just try to stay away from the labels. For me, I think that it's just good to be a civil libertarian and just treat everybody with common decency and respect. That's all you need to do. And everything else should just fall into place. And then, of course, you need to be able to defend yourself and fight, because freedom isn't free. And you have to be able to stand up for your rights and make sure that you can protect and defend your wife and kids. That's why I always tell you guys, like, I think that the best way to save the planet is to have kids, because you're going to be a much better steward when you know you're leaving behind your offspring, and you don't want to leave it worse. You want to leave it better for them. You want them to have a better life than you did. And so that always makes me sick that the globalists always want to destroy the family, the nuclear family, and replace, especially with women, replace men, as far as women go, with the state. Make all women into cat ladies, single cat ladies, and have the state be their husband. And it's what a sad thing, because I think that what a great thing to leave behind something great like your kids and leave them a better place for them. Anyways, I think we all need to be developing parallel systems where we work together to support each other. And I think that Tony Schnabel says, "You're just weird, mate. I suggest you stop your video before you deeply insult the entire world." That was my little Irish one. Yeah, and that's the problem. You'll see that a lot of people from the UK, especially, it's all about insult. Oh, you're going to insult somebody. Somebody may have their feelings hurt, right? Now, when you do that, you basically you're emasculating people, because you're disallowing them the ability to stand up for what they believe in and say what's right and true. You're preventing them from engaging in free speech. Yet the people that they invite to invade their lands do the same thing to the natives, and nothing happens to them. And so that's the argument. And so from the locals who are now constantly protesting and having a lot of trouble. So because of that, you have to look at it from their point of view too. And it's like they have a right to be heard too. and shutting them down and trying to censor what's happening to their children is really despicable. And their government should be held accountable for that. In the United States, if something like that had happened at the turn of the century or whatever, they would have tarred and feathered those politicians. That would have never happened. So a lot of people are trying to understand how this is happening at all. So yeah, that's right, Jeff. And then, of course, Plea the Fifth says cultural diversity. So anyways, I don't want to get too off into the whole religious thing and this and that. What we're trying to understand here is why are the police affording the locals in all of these attacks over in the UK right now a two-tier justice system? Why does it appear that the police are only going after the natives? And why aren't the police, why aren't the government doing more to deport these people and get them out of the country who are not going along with the program? And why are the courts reinterpreting the law to allow people who are like killers and rapists or whatnot to get off based upon some argument that it wasn't illegal in the country they came from? I mean, that's pretty crazy if you ask me. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that that's disgusting. That you can have someone come in your country, take advantage, have their way with your women and children, and then have a judge say, oh, that's okay. You didn't know any better, even though you were in our country. Because I was always taught that, people know the law and they're presumed to, know the law. You're presumed to know the law, right? So if you're presumed to know the law, then you know the law. So why is it that the people that they're flooding their countries with don't have to know the law? Why is it that they're getting some special exception? Now, I know in England they did have some interesting rules. So we'll get into that also, because I am a historian, a legal historian. And so, for example, we know that in certain cases, a criminal may be judged under like Welsh law or Scottish law, even though they may have violated the law in an English territory or vice versa. So there were instances of that, but there were still, nonetheless, these were laws that were native to the UK in Emerald Isle and whatnot. These were not like sub-Saharan Africa laws. So it was a different situation, but that could be why they're doing it. But either way, it's kind of sad, if you ask me, that their local government's not standing up for the parents and the families who have been so affected by this mass flooding of people from countries who don't respect or support their way of life or their culture. So it's kind of sad. And we'll go ahead and get rid of the Antifa guy. He's gone. Okay. So anyways, does anybody have any questions for me about anything? Because I do have to get back to work, but I thought we would have a good time tonight and talk about the two-tier justice system that's being proffered up in the United Kingdom. Is it real or is it fantasy? Do the locals have a right to defend their children? Did the locals get out of hand by attacking the migrants who are attacking their children, or were they acting in self-defense? Did they have a justification for getting out of hand? Do all of the Islamic gangs who are running around with machetes and attacking white people and kicking their teeth out and trying to poke their eyes out and stuff, are they justified in what they're doing? And if so, and if not, then why is it that the UK government is focused almost exclusively on the local populace and trying to point their finger at them? And why aren't they not clamping down on these other people, what many people call invaders, other people call them migrants? Why aren't the police clamping down on them? And that's the big question. Why hasn't the military been called in? So what do you guys think is going on? And do you see a correlation between what's going on there and what's going on at our southern border? Oh, by the way, I think last night, 10,000 illegals poured in through our northern border and into New York. And from what I hear, it's really easy to do that. And I guess it's almost like a foregone conclusion that all these illegals that are going into New York will have the right to vote or will be voting in the next election, according to many experts. It appears as though as soon as they sign up for their free benefits, they're being told that they need to register to vote. So we'll be seeing some stuff from Project Veritas about that coming out. Really interesting stuff that's popping on the radar pretty soon, guys. A lot of information. And then, of course, Stephen says the migrants were defending themselves. Maybe they were. I don't know, Stephen. I see a bunch of migrants running around in the UK with machetes and just attacking random white people who are sitting at restaurants. So I don't know, maybe in your culture, that's self-defense. In my culture, you don't just walk up to random white people and start punching them in the face or trying to cut them apart with machetes. Give me a bunch of ones if that's normal. In your country, give me a bunch of twos if it's not, so I can kind of get an idea of who I have in my audience today. Yeah, that's right, Kurt Bronson. And maybe that's what it's for. Maybe all this division is because martial law is coming. Maybe that's what they want, is to foist some kind of a martial law situation on us. What do you guys think? I mean, what do you think, Wanda Mise? What do you think, Brick? Oh, nice. All right, well, Brick's out of here. He's just doing the dinner thing. Yeah, and then G Hammer says they're there to erase the natives. I don't really know. I think that it's just a conglomeration of a bunch of stuff. Probably a lot of Arab oil money is behind this, like, because they want to export Islam into other countries, right? Because that's part of establishing a caliphate. I think it's one of the commandments, actually, of their Quran, is that they have to have worldwide Islam. I mean, I think it is. Look, I'm no expert, guys, and I'm not trying to attack their religion. I think there are a lot of really amazing things about Islam, from what I do know, that are really good quality, wholesome things. I don't know enough about it to render an opinion one way or another. I know there's a lot of Christian sects that are radical and other ones that are weird, and so who knows? But just as a whole, I don't really think it's the religious thing. I think that might be the catalyst that gets this going, but I think it's just cultural. I think that these people come from countries that are just culturally so different than the UK that they don't want to adapt to the UK culture. They want to keep their own culture. They're not going there to try and assimilate. They're going there to change it. That's what I think. They want to create a country like the one that they left, for lack of a better word, for lack of a better statement. Many are saying that. Not really sure, but it is disconcerting because I hear the same stuff going on with our local police. Like, they're kind of just like letting the illegals off the hook, right? Like these people that are coming from like Venezuela, a lot of, criminals, and these guys having their way with our women. They're just letting them out. And they're going out and they're reoffending, like one after another. Just like, it's almost like, who cares? They're not enforcing the law. They're just letting them back out on the street. And so we're seeing almost the same thing happening. And you see the same messaging across social media, Facebook, all CNN, even Fox. It's all the same Sky News, the same messaging. It's almost like it's all being controlled and directed by one person. And a lot of people believe that would be Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. For some reason, they just want to wipe out the local populace. That's what they're saying. I don't know if it's true, but somehow or another, the police have gotten involved in this. And because of that, the police are arbitrarily and capriciously enforcing laws where they're enforcing them in such a way that the natives feel as though they're being targeted and that the invaders, as they call them, are being basically left alone. And so that's the issue, the two-tiered policing system. And I wanted to know if any of you see a similar thing happening with our policing system here in the United States. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, guys. But I had a good time tonight. This is something I wanted to cover because I've gotten so many calls. One of my buddies over in Ireland wants to come out here and hang out with us for a while. He's so worried about what's going on. It's getting like dangerous, like where he lives, that area, it's on fire. And the locals are just terrified, especially the women and children. They're just terrified. And so I don't know what the answer is, but it seems to me like if you slowed down the rate of immigration and sent back people who are clearly a problem, that could probably resolve a lot of these issues that the locals and the people who are, natives are suffering. That could probably help a lot. So I don't know what the answer is, but guys, everybody pray for our friends in Britain and Ireland, our cousins across the lake, the pond, and that they that they're safe, and hopefully, somebody in their government will save them, will come out, maybe maybe a general or something from the military, or maybe the king will say something, and maybe they can do something to finally, make the UK, a rule of law country again, right? Where their culture is respected by the people that are coming into their country instead of spit upon, which is what a lot of the natives are saying. Oh yeah, Canada too. Yeah, Rip says in Canada too. Yeah, Trudeau is really something, man. I mean, just the way you see this communist Chinese style elite, rule by elite happening with the blow-dried hair. But it's the same messaging. It's the same exact thing. It's just rule by elite, convince the masses, right? That one segment of the population is the enemy. Rule by elite. That's what's going on. It's dangerous times, guys. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Keep in mind, everything that I do on my show is separate and apart from my work. I do personal injury law. I do criminal defense. I do civil rights, some civil rights, tight handcuff cases. So if you guys ever, have a situation in California or Texas where you've been involved in a motorcycle accident, I'm heavily involved in the motorcycle community, this motorcycle rider community, and the veterans community. So anything like that, I'm always willing to help with fundraisers. If you have any issues where you want to have a celebrity lawyer or whatever come and help you, I'll more than happy to help you guys out. If you want to learn about how I became a lawyer with no undergrad or law degree, if you go on my profile page, my YouTube profile, and click the description, there's a PayPal link. You can order a digital copy of my book. Anybody who I have an outstanding order, please say so in the sidebar now. I've been having some problems getting into my PayPal account. So, but if you've had them, you're welcome, Kurt. Thanks. Kurt Bronson says, great show. Thanks, Kurt. I just wanted to be able to present both sides of the story. I know that a lot of people who are like Muslim or whatever are going to think, oh, he was anti-Muslim, and people who are like British, oh, he's anti-British. But there are also segments from all those other communities who understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to present the side of the story of those parents and those families, these guys. Hold on. Because this is why, hold on a minute. So these kids right here, this is what caused this. And this is what's being buried by, like the communist, CNN, the Communist News Network. So this story here, July 31st, 2024. All right. Daily Telegraph. BB King, 6 years old. Elsie Stancombe, 7. Alice Aguilar, 9. Violence erupts over child killings. Now, this is one of these things. If you're posting stuff like this on Facebook over in the UK, you're getting lit up by the government. They might even send a cop to your house just for talking about this. This is the problem that people are having. So say a prayer for BB King's soul, Elsie Stancombe's soul, and Alice Aguilar's soul, or Aguiar's soul. 6, 7, and 9 years old. Riot police clashed with a mob over this at a Southport mosque, despite the minister's warning for the public to stop stirring discontent. So all I can say is, look, the parents, the families, the natives, the people who live in these towns know where the violence is coming from. And where did they go? They went to a mosque because they know that that's where all this stuff is coming from. All right. So they know it. They clashed with the police, and officers were injured. One of them got a broken nose. This is some serious stuff. These cops aren't armed. Downing Street appealed for calm. And we saw earlier in my video that they're going and arresting like 80-year-old guys who posted about it on Facebook that they don't like these invaders in their country. They want them out. And what are the police doing? They're arresting those guys. And those guys were posting that because of these 3 girls right here. So I just want you to understand cause and effect. I really appreciate it that I have a lot of critical thinkers who come to my channel. And I really do adore you guys and love it that you motivate me to come back time after time to do these shows. Hopefully this wasn't too outrageous. All it is truth. And the day that truth is a disease or that truth is evil, the world is evil. You have to put sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and you got to put the sunlight. Those parents are upset at their government for flooding their country with people that don't respect their culture, that don't respect the United Kingdom's culture, and they don't respect their laws, and they don't respect their women and children. And these people in the UK, these are native Europeans, are descendants of the Danes, they're descendants of the Vikings, they're descendants of King Richard, they're descendants of the Teutonic Knights. Well, not the Teutonic Knights, but the Knights Templar, who fought against this very same thing. And they're scratching their head trying to figure out, how is it that our government is allowing these people to just come into our country and immediately get on government assistance? What the hell is going on? So I don't know. I'm just telling you guys what I'm hearing. I'll let you guys decide for yourself what you want to think. But at least I gave you an opportunity to hear why these people are so upset. And now you understand. If you have children, if you've had children, or you want to have children, I think maybe you'll have some sympathy for the natives who have been overrun in their minds by these people. Okay, with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die.